Okay, so this is just a quick video going over this coordinate alignment thing that actually happens in models a whole bunch. So I'm in the MEP model, I select the architecture model, and you'll see that right now it's convinced it's not using a shared site. So what's weird about this is if you just tell it to move to the shared site, now the model is going to jump way up into the position that we see it in through the project portal. Um, Obviously, that's not what we want to do either. Now, that basically says to us that the coordinates are not aligned through shared coordinates. So the way you typically would fix that in Revit is you would go to Coordinates, Acquire, and then you would click on the architectural model and tell it to acquire. Now, what's weird is it's convinced they're already the same. So this is a problem that happens when the coordinates were aligned like earlier in the job, and then somebody moved a coordinate system, and Revit only basically keeps track of whether or not the coordinate systems are aligned somehow by the name. So this MEP model was one time aligned to the coordinate system called internal, but they're no longer the same. The way you have to fix this is sort of hilarious. We have to make a new file, a blank file, that we're then going to tell the MEP model to acquire its coordinates off of, and then we have to reacquire from the correct model. So we're going to just put this on the desktop and call it what the heck, and then we'll close it. I always put something in the file or you can't see it when you get it in here. So now we're going to go link Revit. We're going to pick desktop, what the heck. We're going to go cursor at center just because it's going to be easier to find it if we do that. And I'm literally going to just plop this little square building right out there. Now I should be able to go coordinates acquire from that. And it's going to process, it's going to do all this happy stuff. Now the downside is I think I'm going to have to synchronize this model in between doing these steps because I don't recall. There's some weird juju in there on how you fix this, so we're going to synchronize this thing first. Okay, once it's done synchronizing, I'm now going to just delete this other linked file because we don't need it, we don't want it, it's silly. So we're going to delete it and just say remove the link. So now, in theory, and I always like to say the expectations before we do it, I believe if we now tell it to acquire the coordinates from architecture, it should now register that that's a valid operation. So I've clicked on acquire coordinates and now we're clicking on the architectural file again. And at that point, now when we hit the synchronize with central, we expect the shared positioning dialog to come up. Although I haven't actually done this on C4R, so maybe that dialog doesn't come up. It used to be in work shared files that when you clicked on Sync with Central after changing the coordinates, you would get a pop-up about that. So we'll check this. We'll click on the file. It now says internal, and that means that the model should now be in the correct spot. So I'm going to synchronize one more time, just because anytime I move around, I synchronize. And we will give this a try. I think this is now fixed. This is, like I said, it's kind of a freaky incident. Anytime files say they're aligned, but they're physically not, that's basically what you have to do is use what we call the sacrificial coordinate file to reset the shared coordinates, and then you can acquire coordinates correctly. So let's give that a whirl and see if it works.